And welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Planet Mullins podcast. Nice to have you back with us today. I have an amazing composer, musician, arranger, trombone player, pianist. He's done just about everything, and he's got a brand new recording project we're going to talk about, and a gig coming up at Dazzle. Please say hello to Zach Rich, everybody. Hey, Zach.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell my audience, which is going to become your audience because you're so great at everything. I'm sure you'll get a lot of fans from this. That we met at a Denver jazz jam session that's held in kind of a dubious part of town. Uh, I think about a year or so ago, and you came up and sat in on trombone. And usually at those jams, I don't play a lot, but I like to go there to just see, what the young talent is. And at my stage, anybody under 40 is young talent. But you played really well. We started talking about theory, and then you said, "Oh yeah, you're teaching over at DU." But folks, listen to some of these credits that Zach has already racked up. He's worked with Billy Childs, who I would say you kind of do a little bit of a Billy Childs thing with the orchestra and strings, right, Zach?
Oh yeah, I mean he's definitely one of my favorite
Yeah,
composers.
yeah.
So
Billy
yeah,
Childs,
love
Rufus
for his
Reid,
work.
Steve Wilson, the sax player Steve Wilson, right?
Hmm.
I love Steve Wilson, and we'll talk more about him because
Oh
he's
yeah.
anti Kenny G, has the most beautiful soprano tone, so unlike Kenny G. Shane Endsley, who's a DU faculty as well, John Clayton, the bass player, Randy Brecker, Wayne Bergeron, who I've known for many years, Count Basie Orchestra. I mean, and you've traveled all the way to places like Lincoln Center and Helsinki, Finland. So you've been really getting around, big man.
I'll try and
Yeah, well,
definitely trying.
congratulations on your new album. Tell us about the concept and how it got recorded. And you've got a release party coming up on the 8th of April at Dazzle. So I'll be there to host and support you that night. And everybody watching, please pick up tickets and come hang out because I know it's going to be great. But how did okay, all of a sudden you're at Lincoln Center. What? That's like a dream of people to play Lincoln Center. How did that happen?
Oh, definitely. Well, that was part when I went to grad school. I got my doctorate at University of Northern Colorado. So they um Lincoln Center, they have their essentially Ellington program for like high schools, middle schools, and then they kind of added a relatively new program back in 2020 that was a similar thing for colleges. So just they selected, I think, 10 colleges from around the country. And so went out there with Northern Colorado, and
Oh,
it was
nice.
great. Wrote a piece for them, and it was a really fun time. I mean, of course, great to be there. Only other time I'd been to Lincoln Center, I think, was at Dizzy's for a commission I wrote for the New York Youth Symphony Jazz
Well,
Orchestra. But
that kind of brings me to another thing. I mean, and people always say that guys like you and me are lucky because we get to travel and get paid to go places and stuff. Like I'm getting ready to go back to India with Hubert Laws,
oh
and
man,
I love India. And I've been all over the world thanks to my music and people that I've met through universities like you and stuff. And I always get paid to travel. I always thought it was funny when a girlfriend would say, "Well, let's go to fill in the blank," and I'd be like, "No, we're not going there. Why not? You don't love me? No, I don't love paying a travel bill. Is what I don't love."
uh,
But because of your writing, it's opened a lot of doors. Now, you're from Kansas originally, right?
yeah, from Wichita, Kansas.
And then how did you get into playing trombone and piano and becoming a writer and arranger? Was it just a natural thing for you? Did you work into it or what?
I mean, I feel like I got started a little bit later on it. I mean, I played trombone. I started in middle school band, like most kids do, and I took a few piano lessons growing up. Never really had the discipline
Mm.
as a little kid, but I'm sure it helped a bit. But definitely got my interest in music, and then played trombone. Ended up going to school at a small liberal arts college and in Wichita, following my girlfriend at the time. But it was a good fit. You know, I had space to grow, and I was a pre-med major
Wow.
initially for about a year and a half, and then I just kind of decided like, oh, music's what makes me happy, and I around my junior year of college started getting into writing, and I just really loved it. It was just the most organic way I could find to express myself. So and thankfully had a lot of opportunities for trial and error, which I think is essential to find out what works and doesn't work on the bandstand, etc.
Right.
So I'm thankful for those opportunities. And then yeah, I came to Colorado for grad school and wound up in Denver now, where I teach part-time and gig full-time, and it's
Nice.
it's been a good scene, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting combination with trombone players and other aspects of the business because I've been lucky to work with some great trombone players. When I was part of the Denver Public Schools, they had this thing called Citywide Jazz Band, and we traveled to Mobile, Alabama, and Irby Green
Oh yeah.
and Oliver Nelson were like the head guys. And man, Irby was ridiculous, right? And then after meeting him, uh, I was at this conference on world affairs up in Boulder at CU, and that's how I got to meet Bill Watrous, right?
Oh yeah.
So, and then when I was in high school in Denver, we would sneak down to El Chapultepec before there were computers and they wouldn't scan your ID, and I would hang out with Carl Fontana,
Oh man.
right? And
I didn't
then
know he hung out in Colorado that much. That's
oh
cool.
yeah, yeah. I went to high school in Colorado, and I'm a UNC dropout. I lasted 1 year, and then after I went back to LA, then I played with one of the greatest funk trombone players of all time, which was Wayne Henderson of the Crusaders.
Oh yeah.
And so, but I noticed with all of these trombone players, and you're kind of in a way the same cloth as these guys. There's always an
No, thank
interest
you.
in arranging, and well, as a player, I mean, you've already superseded a lot of these cats that were icons, and you're kind of like, in my book, you're the next voice of this generation on that instrument because listening to your album. I know how hard it is to play the trombone because I sat next to Wayne Henderson flying all over the world for 4 years listening to Wayne. And he would actually bring a baritone horn on the gig when we could afford the cartage, and he would take these solos on baritone. But getting the sound out of a trombone and getting the slide in all the right places and all that lip work, I mean, that's a real art in doing that. Did that come naturally? Why did you pick that instrument? I guess I'm trying to get to.
Oh yeah, I mean I think it's always a bit of a crapshoot, I think, with brass instruments, because at the end of the day it's metal on flesh. So I mean everyone has a bit different setup. But for me, I think, you know, just maybe um the way my lips were or something, and brass felt comfortable, at least compared to woodwinds. I can't make a good sound to save my life on a reed instrument. But so I gravitated towards
Neither can a
brass.
lot of this. Neither can a lot of the smooth jazz sax guys. But
Oh,
oh, man, I have to get my one smooth jazz dig on every cool interview. Anyway, sorry.
oh man, yeah, no, of course. But and yeah, trombone. Yeah, I just remember it was a little, for me, the larger mouthpiece seemed a little more intuitive. I do play some trumpet now too,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, so trombone. I think it was. Oh, excuse me, like chugging on my coffee a bit, but yeah, I think it was a good fit. Just happened to be a good fit that just kind of worked, and I think thankfully I had some good private teachers to study with towards the beginning that really helped me get a good sound,
Yeah,
get a
their sound
routine
is great.
together. Oh well, thank you, thank you. But
If you want to take a sip of water or something, that's fine
oh
too.
yeah, I'm going to real quick.
It's always totally cool. I mean, we're really chill here on this podcast. It's a pretty laid back kind of thing. So, um, yeah, man. Well, that instrument and you seem to be like a perfect fit. And then hearing you play, do they call it altissimo, even though it's a bass clef instrument when you're up in the high range, and that way up there stuff that you do so well? What's the term for that? Is there a term for that other than
Don't.
badass mofo?
Oh man, I mean, I guess I've heard it called altissimo. I mean, usually we reserve that for woodwinds. I feel like, because with brass, technically with the overtone series, there is no set cap to the high range. It's kind of everyone's a little bit different,
Okay.
but yeah, definitely a lot of time doing long tones and lip slurs
Okay.
uh, to get that together. There's a lot of time and effort. It's a labor of love for sure. Like every instrument has its different technical hangups and
Yeah,
features.
I felt that way about the piano when I played Barry for a long time and then played drums. I
Oh,
still played drums on occasion. I mean, when Liam Zom fell asleep during the making of my This Way Up record, I had a free jazz tune, and since he was asleep, I just went out to his kit with the brushes and did a whole like Jack DeJohnette style
oh
brushes,
man,
which I'll send it to you. It's pretty funny.
please do. Yeah.
But I eventually settled more on the piano because I was hearing, chords and expanded harmonies, but it was also kind of like a blameless instrument because piano, you just hit a note and you get a sound. And if it's not in tune, you can blame another person. You can,
Yeah.
hey man, what was this piano last tuned? I mean, it's not that way with the digitals now, but I think from listening to your voicing concepts, and for those of you out there in the audience that don't know what voicings are, it's the way that chords are put together in groups and what notes are close together, what notes are far apart, which notes of the chord do you play, and how do you distribute them through a band. And your band, you've got basically three lead guys on the gig. You've got you and Shane, and who's the other one? Remy.
Remy LaBeouf. Yeah.
Right. So it's alto and trumpet and trombone is the front line,
Hmm.
and then a string quartet.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, man, that is cool. Like, I told you last week or so, I was in LA driving around with my agent when your album hit the PO box, and she said, "Oh, you got an album? You got a CD?" And I said, "Yeah, it's this trombone guy from Denver. Oh, let's put it in." Dude, we put it in, and right away we just loved it because
Oh man.
it was well engineered. It was well composed. You were playing your ass off. Then all of a sudden, there's these like Klaus Ogerman or Gil Evans. I mean, that's the only thing. It's not really them, but that's the only thing I could use really to describe it. All these textures and cool things floating in and out. I mean, how did you come across doing that?
Oh, well, I'm definitely a big fan of Klaus Sogerman and Bill Evans for sure. Um, to cite a more contemporary example, I mean, Billy Childs is one of my favorite modern composers. So I definitely got a lot of inspiration from him and his chamber writing.
Yeah.
Um, I got to work with him closely doing a residency at the Ravinia Festival in Chicago,
Oh wow.
like a composer residency, focusing just on chamber work. So that was really a formative experience. Um,
I bet.
I think getting into this, but then of course, Klaus Sogerman. I mean, big fan. Vince Mendoza. I
Yeah.
guess to cite like another logical branch coming from that tree,
Sure.
so to speak. Mio Hazama, another contemporary artist I'm very fond of, who's doing a lot of great work. So definitely a lot of inspiration out there, I think, to study a bit of what they did. Um,
Absolutely. Well, before we run out of time because we don't have that much longer before we got to wrap. But I just have to ask you this question because when I was a kid and I was studying with Jack Fredrickson at Lincoln High School and writing out big band charts, I had these huge pieces of score paper I had to special order because you couldn't just go to any store and buy them. They were 11 by 17 pieces of paper. And, when you're 14 and 15, it costs a fortune. It's like, what, $2 a page? This
Oh
is
yeah.
crazy. And I would always lay those pages out and then just laboriously, I hear kind of what I wanted. And then Jack would let me bring the stuff into Lincoln High School to try it
Oh
and
man.
to test it out, which was cool. But I mean, are you one of those guys that can just sit there like you do in your promo shot with a trombone on the piano and you got your coffee and your notepad and it just all comes flowing out, or is it more of what's your process?
Oh sure. I mean, I feel like it changes quite a bit. I mean, I talked to a colleague who's a film scorer. I remember a while ago about writer's block, and we agreed like, oh, it feels like we're in a perpetual state of it. But really, what that means is we're just trying to constantly, um, anytime inspiration comes, take advantage of that, either with like a with your phone recorder or something like that. But no, for me, it's really it all comes down to the piano. I think that's where it's my favorite instrument. I play a Ranger's piano, um, but it's just nice to have everything laid out like that. So I
Right.
like to figure it out on the piano, like a reduced arrangement,
Okay.
or like figuring out all the voices, and then going to the paper and doing the technical part of it of writing it down and figuring out the orchestration or who plays what
Do you
and
do
all
that
that.
in Sibelius or Finale, or what do you use?
I use Finale.
Okay. Yeah, I have the poor man's version of Finale, which is called Print Music, and I got a back when it was $49, I had a chance to write a book for Hal Leonard on jazz piano, and I did the entire thing in Microsoft Word and a $49 notation program,
Amazing.
and it was a pain in the butt. I don't like the whole part of notating it because for me the process is everything usually just comes into my head and then it's this agonizing thing of all the laborious time of getting it written down so that I can communicate it to other people. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
definitely the tedious part.
So on one of your album tunes, like how long would it take you to do a whole chart for one of your album tunes? How many hours, maybe?
Oh, I mean, if I have it all figured out, I'd say could probably get through it maybe 3 or 4 hours
Oh
to
my
get through one
God.
of the charts.
Wow, you're a definite genius. Because folks, it would take somebody like me, and I write a lot of music. It would take me a good 30 hours to do one chart. But I don't do that all the time either, as one thing. But the fact that you can do it so quickly is just, another aspect, another arrow in your quiver of trombone arranging goodness. So let's talk a little bit about the party. Now you're
Oh
going
yeah.
to have the band, basically the band from the album. It's going to be April the 8th
hmm
at Dazzle Jazz, downtown Denver. Showtime is 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Okay, great. And I'm going to come down and host it. I'll try and not tell too many trombone jokes before you come on.
Okay,
Actually, I'm
okay.
not going to tell any because you could come out and with one arm you could kick my butt. So I'm not gonna go there. But we're gonna have some fun. It's gonna be a great night. It's one show only, right?
Yep, just one show.
7 o'clock, okay. And then you'll have your new CD, Solidarity, for sale there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you have a copy of it handy you could hold up real quick?
Oh, let me I do not actually.
Okay, that's
Here,
okay. I'll just
I could pull up the album artwork for you.
okay, well, yeah,
Let's
I'll
see.
go ahead and I can do that just as part of the podcast. I should have
Yeah, yeah.
that before we started filming, but you know what, man? You're to be commended for all the effort that it takes and all the hard work that you put in, all the money that you spent, and there's a very small group of people out there in the recording field that knows just how hard it is, just how expensive it is, just how time consuming it is to bring something to the finish line. And I'm one of those people. I get it.
Oh yeah.
So congratulations, man.
Oh well, thank you. And I would like to mention this was partly funded by an organization called Pathways to Jazz.
Great.
Um, so they provide great funding opportunities. Now they're available to anyone in the U.S., not just Colorado residents. Um, but they were a big help for sure during the recording process.
Fantastic, man. And the record company you signed to is called what now?
Origin Records. It's OA2
OA2.
is like the subset of it or like the label. But yeah, Origin Records based in Seattle,
Okay.
led by John Bishop. But yeah, they've been a great help through it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Well, that's a whole nother world in itself, just, getting the money and getting signed to a label deal. And folks, his record is fantastic. I'm going to put some streaming links in the YouTube subscription box, so don't forget to click down there and check out the new Zach Rich album. Now, you're going on KUVO on Friday. That's April the 6th, or is that the 5th?
Or the 5th, April 5th. Yeah.
Okay, what are you going to be on with Arturo?
Yep, hanging with Arturo
And there's nothing
at
better than
noon.
hanging with Arturo, man. He's so hilarious.
Oh, it's great. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, he's funny, man. I've been working on an Arturo voice impression, but I started getting vocal cord damage. So
Uh,
no, I'm just kidding. He's such a good cat, man.
oh yeah.
And I'm sure he'll be there on April the 8th to cheer you on as I will be. So anyway, man, thanks again for coming on. Best of luck with everything. Love the project. Love you. Can't wait to hear the live show. And as they say in the business in Hollywood, I hope you sell 1 million copies, kid.
Well, thanks so much, Rob. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. And that's going to do it, folks, for another brand new episode of the Planet Mullins podcast. My guest today was Zach Rich, trombonist, composer, all around good guy with his new album, Solidarity. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.